Hello, BookTube. We're once again braving the waters of the tech-apocalypse that is unfolding here at Hyde Cottage. I'm going to try to film videos today on a few different pieces of equipment and see which ones of them perform or don't, which ones freeze or argue or cross their arms and stamp their feet. All further motivation for me to get some new tech. I'm always up for getting new tech. Or old tech, if any of you scour your cupboards and find an old MacBook. But in the meantime, I thought I'd make a brief test video just because I'm not sure this thing isn't going to freeze again. So we'll do a little bit of mail. There's one little package that I got yesterday, and I opened it off camera. But we can still talk about it. We can still look at it. I believe this is a reprint. I think this came out last year. This comes out in early July. It is by Anke Molstein, and it is called Monsieur Proust's Library. And it's about reading in Proust, in his own life and in his works. It's a skinny little thing. I remember reading it and liking it. I didn't like it quite as much as some of my critical brethren. The Other Press is proud to present a new edition of this book in honor of the 150th anniversary of Marcel Proust's birth. Originally published in 2012 to great acclaim from outlets such as The New Yorker and The Wall Street Journal, and named a Daily Beast hot read, Monsieur Proust's Library is witty and engaging account of French literary history through the eyes of Proust. Reading was so important to him that it sometimes seems he was unable to create a fictional personage without placing a book in hand. 200 of his creatures inhabit his fictional world, and 60 writers hover over them. These writers, among them various classical authors of the 17th century, are not there for show. Their works play an active role in the construction of In Search of Lost Time, which my generation knew as Remembrance of Things Past. I read this, I believe, and I think, if I remember correctly, I read it and it had the desired effect. With a book like this, the desired effect is always to send you back to the book that's being discussed. The author's done a bad job if they don't do that, and this did. And at the time, I'm trying to remember. One of you might know better. I don't love this author the way some of you do. I know that already, and I often feel guilty about that because I figure 20 million Frenchmen can't be wrong, as the saying goes. I seem to remember that around the time that this was coming out, was it Princeton? Somebody was coming out with a big new translation of In Search of Lost Time, volume by volume. And I had a few of those, and this sent me back not only to those, but to the old Moncrief hardcover box set of the 3 volumes of Remembrance of Things Past. And it didn't work, but that's been a while. It's been almost 10 years, so I'm gonna read this again. Because this author is really not Proust. He is not really fascinating, but what's her name again? Anke Molstein is really fascinating on books and reading, and even on Proust. And maybe this will be the prompt to read Proust again, to go and find a box set of Remembrance of Things Past and give it another read, and see if maybe the magic breaks in this time around. It has never done it. The magic has never broken through to me. I've gotten Penguin Classics. I've gotten In Search of Lost Time, these renovated Moncrief translations, or even brand new translations. And I have read Remembrance of Things Past in those crappy old gray trade paperbacks, and also in the black hardcovers that they came from. I have spelunked in this work industriously, and never come through with magic. Never connected with the magic, but I'm not willing to say the magic's not there. So I will give it a try. But I'll give this book a reread, and if it sends me back to Proust, then it sends me back to Proust. That's our worst ways to spend a summer. But then we also have a box. So we have a very thin package that I did open, and a box that I didn't. So let's open. Very well packaged. Let's very gently work our way into this thing and see what it is. A box could be a nice big finished copy. That would be nice. Nice big finished copy of something. What have we got here? Oh, very nice. I missed this completely, and that is not acceptable. I missed it completely. So the let's see here. The pub date on this thing is already going to be out. This thing is yeah, this came out in early May. And this is almost July. I missed it completely, and it's a gigantic behemoth of a thing by an author I love on a subject I love. So I was not supposed to miss it. I will. This has just bumped everything else for today, so I will read this today. This is by John Ferling, who is a great American Revolution era historian, and this is his big new book, Winning Independence. And that somehow I blame the pandemic, the after effect, the long after effect of the pandemic. But somehow or other, I did not get this in the mail and was not even really that aware of it. So as soon as I saw that, I sent up a squeal, and the publicist was very nice, fantastic. Okay, so what have we got here? Ferling had long considered. He wrote biographies of Washington, of John Adams. His one-volume biography of John Adams is incredibly good. But we'll learn all about the author at the end here. Ferling had long considered writing this book and eventually undertook the project after the 6 volumes of Earl Cornwallis's papers for 1780 to 1781 were published. Recent years have also witnessed the publication and electronic access to many important documents, diaries, and correspondence between military leaders on both sides of the Atlantic, all giving him the ability to evaluate these rival leaders on the basis of what each knew when, and offer a comprehensive re-examination of their respective commands. And this is a quote from the author. I hope that the perspective of time and the massive documentation now available have enabled me to offer fresh judgment on the reasons for the war's outcome. It was 1778, and the recent American victory at Saratoga had netted the United States Army a powerful ally in the country of France. Many, including Washington, presumed France's entrance into the war meant independence was just around the corner. Meanwhile, having lost an entire army at Saratoga, Great Britain pivoted to a southern strategy. The army would henceforth seek to regain its southern colonies, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, a highly profitable segment of its pre-war American empire. Deep into 1780, Britain's new approach seemed headed for success as the U.S. economy collapsed and morale on the home front waned. By early 1781, Washington and others feared that France would drop out of the war if the Allies failed to score a decisive victory in that year. This is the southern theater of the American Revolution that's so often overlooked in general studies. Most Americans don't even hear about it in school. Sir Henry Clinton, commander of Britain's army, thought, quote, the rebellion is near its end. Washington, who had been so optimistic in 1778, despaired. I have almost ceased to hope, is the quote from the commander-in-chief. Unfortunately, that isn't really very specific, because Washington not only said that in every year, he said that in every letter. Even when it wasn't about the uphill battle to win independence, his cousin Lund would write from Mount Vernon and say, yeah, that particular horse that you like, she's having trouble foaling. And Washington's reply would contain the line, I have almost ceased to hope. But in this case, I'm sure it applies. So this is the dramatic story of how and why Great Britain, so close to regaining several southern colonies and rendering the post-war United States a fatally weak union, ultimately failed to win the war. So fantastic. A huge new reconsideration of a key aspect of the American Revolution by one of its greatest living historians. Very happy to have this. I'm a little bit ashamed that it slipped under my radar for so long, but now it's here, and I will read it. And then I don't know how useful a review would be at this late date, but I'll certainly review it. I'll certainly give my thoughts. So there you go. 2 nonfiction works, but one is very thin, and one is very thick. One is a subject I know really well and never tire of reading about, and the other is a subject I do tire of reading about it. If I remember correctly, this thing is illustrated. No? Am I remembering that wrong? Okay. There's a little illustration at the end there. A little bird about to dunk a memory-stirring pastry. That's all, to start the whole ball rolling. I don't know what kind of remembrance of things past a bird has. But one way or another, I'll give this another try. I mean, the author is entirely right. Books were absolutely Proust's life. So I'll give it another try, and if it is the pebble that dislodges the avalanche of sending me back to remembrance of things past, you'll be the first to know. I will certainly tell you. So that's the mail for today. Basically today. A tiny little reprint from 2012. and a great big book from May. So, and I don't think we had any stutters in the video. I don't think it froze at all. So I'm marginally hopeful there. We'll move on. I'll make another video and see if the streak continues. Thank you, BookTube.